Collins will draw a card. Again, we did a deck tech with him a little bit earlier in the weekend. We're hoping to play that again for you guys at the conclusion of this round. But this Kethis deck, if you're used to Standard, you've seen Kethis in action and just how good it can be. Now here's a grinding station. Emery's going to return a Chromatic Star. Collins will play that Chromatic Star and pass the turn back over to Cameron, whose 1-mana spell protects creatures like Vizier. And grinding station's going to do some milling, sacrificing the Chromatic Star and drawing a card. So Collins can just keep this aspect of things going very easily because of course, the Emery that's on the battlefield.
And with Kethis plus a Mox in the graveyard, he might already be done.
Well, this is a bit of a problem here for Cameron Patrick. Here is a Mox Amber. So he's saying I can do this ad nauseum, I believe.
Yeah, it's an established loop because he mills himself for 3, but the only requires 2 cards out of the graveyard to be able to reset it.
So he's going to tap the Mox Amber for a blue, get back Mox Opal, do a little of this action.
So he's generating mana and milling over his whole deck here. And the Jace at the end of this line is it can be played, and then you just mill him out.
Now it is worth noting again that Grinding Station says sack an artifact, target player puts the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Whenever an artifact comes into play, you may untap the Grinding Station, which means it's very easy to actually keep this going. So this is exactly what we're going to do. We are going to keep this going. There are plenty of legendaries to remove to keep this going as well. And so we will mill all day long. Mill till we find Jace, Wielder of Mysteries, and sing that song. And that was
easy. Turn 3.
Well, Collins Mullen wins game number 1 with Kethis combo very quickly over Cameron Patrick and his Abzan Company deck. So no messing around here. Again, we do have a deck tech with Collins Mullen that we will get to ideally at the end of the round, but let's get to the sideboards very quickly. I know that Cameron Patrick didn't get to play much that game, but he does have 15 cards to assist him, like a Burrington Forge Tender, like 2 Collector Oofs, a Knight of Autumn, a Plague Engineer, a Sin Collecta, a Tireless Tracker, an Eidolon of Rhetoric, 2 Abrupt Decays, 2 Assassin's Trophies, and 3 Path to Exile. There's actually a lot to bring in here.
Yeah, I mean, you can argue about Assassin's Trophy or Abrupt Decay if there's enough targets, but Eidolon of Rhetoric, the 2 copies of Collector Oof, the Knight of Autumn, all seem good here.
We go to Collins' sideboard is 2 Engineered Explosives, 2 Assassin's Trophies, 3 Fatal Push, 4 Oko Thief of Crowns, a Teferi Time Raveler to go along with the one in his main deck, and 3 copies of Collective Brutality.
I think you just want some of the anti-creature measures. You don't exactly know what Cameron's up to, but you have a pretty good sense from the cards that got played there in the first game. Some blend of the explosives, pushes, trophies, and Teferi all make sense.
And Oko might be an interesting card in this matchup just because its ability to be a permanent answer to annoying things, obviously, just turning Collector Oof into a 3/3 that's textless. Oko has actually proven to be a pretty nice sideboard card for a lot of decks. It's a great problem solver.
Yeah, it might be just against any deck that has a bunch of creatures with good powers. Oko's ability just to take away text boxes good enough for these kind of matchups.
Well, we'll see how things do shake out here as these players do sideboard. You see the records there for both of them. It's 9-3, so in order for them to make top 8, they're going to have to win all of their rounds and perhaps even cross their fingers a little bit. The tiebreakers do hold up. We had a very large day number 2 of competition here in Indianapolis with about 140 players in day number 2 of competition. Nick Miller got to do his metagame breakdown that Ryan Overturf and Todd Anderson went over last round, so if you were here for that, you know that Amulet Titan, Urza Ascendancy, and Jund were the most played decks in day number 2 here. Followed up by Mono Green Tron and Burn at 11 copies, the previous 3 at 12 copies. So a pretty diverse metagame here as it's very much changing with the addition of Modern Horizons, the banning of Hogak, and of course the addition of Throne of Eldraine. Cameron Patrick on the play. We'll see if he's happy with his hand. He's certainly giving it a think. Collins Mullen is not, so he will send it back. This Kethis combo deck, it does have some weird-looking cards in it that you're not used to. Hope of Gear Pow is one. think Wish Claw Talisman is another. That one's from Throne of Eldraine. We have not seen much of that yet. It's a pretty powerful and risky card.
I'm assuming the Hope is legendary, right?
The Hope is legendary. Yes.
Yeah, that's got to be the motivating, a cheap artifact that's a legend and actually has a text box that is helpful in certain spots. Right mix of stuff.
And of course, he's got 8 Moxes in the deck in Amber and Opal. So we head over to Collins. He'll play a Pendlehaven into a Chromatic Star and pass the turn back over to Cameron Patrick, who will sacrifice a Verdant Catacombs. After starting things with a Temple Garden, he'll get himself a basic Forest. And it looks like it's time for a Collector Oof. So the Walking Stony Silence joins the battlefield here for Cameron. We'll see if Collins has a clean way to get that out of here.
And it's not a win all by itself. It's not a single card lock. But in terms of creatures that have made an impact against this deck, if you're backing it up with other disruption and other pressure, Collector Oof has looked really good this weekend.
It has. Glimmer Void into Kethis. Not a hard card to cast as we head back over to Cameron. That is a Shall I, Voice of Plenty. So now Cameron has Hexproof and a flying creature.
And the Shall I is now cover for the Oof.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be... I have not seen Mullen put to this kind of test so far this weekend.
Well, interesting thing about Collins' deck, too, that
and Giver of Runes is cover, too. I mean, that Collector Oof is not going anywhere.
No. One interesting thing I didn't really think about is the fact that you get to play some legendary lands in your deck. There's an Okina.
Oh, yeah, he's got a good Shizo. It's a greatest hits of Champions of Kamigawa block in his mana base.
Get to play a little Urborg action if you want. A Manamo's in there.
The castle.
Oh, the Aganjo Castle hiding out in here. Again, those all work well with Kethis that just wants to remove legendary cards from your graveyard. So somebody went through a Gatherer's Search, that's for sure. Here's Collected Company. And now we head back over to Cameron. This will be infinite +1/+1 counters, folks, thanks to Shall I. So Cameron Patrick wins a very, very, very quick second game.
And I mean, that is a good game plan right there. A turn 2 Collector Oof backed up by a fast kill.
Yeah.
That's a great recipe for approaching this matchup.
Made that one look pretty darn easy. Look, Collector Oof has really kind of shown itself a little bit here as being a really impactful card in this form. And I know a lot of the time if you were trying to beat Affinity or other decks that were relying on artifacts, you had to go towards white.
Yep.
For Stony Silence, you really had no choice. But in making that move to white, you also got access to Rest in Peace, which was nice. And that's why we oftentimes used to say over the years that white was the best color as far as sideboards were concerned. But with the addition of Collector Oof, that may no longer be the case. And it's pretty easy to find creatures in green, too.
Yeah, I think part of the, white has the best sideboard cards. It's not really that way in perpetuity, necessarily. It's just that in the last, like if you go back to, let's say, 2016, 2017, the combination of Stony Silence and Rest in Peace was a really big draw to play white.
Yep, I agree with that.
And those cards are just not at a premium like they used to be.
The game has changed. The game has changed. These players will take a look at their hands. We'll see if they're happy. We are happy. It's Darkling Shores. It's a Mishra's Bauble and a passing of the turn for Cameron Patrick. He's going to fall down to 18 and deploy that Noble Hierarch via the Overgrown Tomb. Collins will activate the Bauble, get an idea of what Cameron's working with. There's the Okina. Temple to the Grandfathers. Can we go back to Kamigawa block, please?
They need a better mixture of the card names were pretty overlappy among the legendaries.
Yeah, well, we can work on that.
Hikori, Harobi. Like there were 3 or 4 of them that sounded like one vowel off.
Look.
With very different text boxes.
We can fix that. Uyo, one of my favorite cards of all time. There's a Mox Amber. Let's see what's coming now. It's Teferi. Okay.
Cool.
Teferi's going to bounce. Teferi's going to bounce Noble Hierarch. Mox Amber's online now. Fatal Push took care of the Devoted Druid. There's a Mox Opal, too. A little short of Metalcraft right now. Well, there's your Noble Hierarch. Not sure how long that is for the world. Teferi's going up. Grinding Station in hand. It's a weird mix of cards that Collins Mullen is playing here this weekend. But he feels like he's found something potent.
Well, if you saw nothing but the mana base, it would be hard to guess what was going on. All right, 4 Spire of Industry. Okay. All right, I got a sense of what's going on. 1 copy of a bunch of bizarre legendary lands from Champions. Like, what are the legendary artifacts in Kamigawa block? There aren't that many.
No.
It's like Jitse. Can't play that.
Oko came down. It made a food token. It looks like it's going to die now, perhaps. Abrupt Decay looks like it's going to take care of it. And Grinding Station came onto the battlefield, which means that the Mox Opal among Collins' lands is now active. And Mox Amber is too. So, we'll go to Chromatic Star. Grinding Station's going to eat the Chromatic Star. Mill 3 cards. We'll head back over to Cameron Patrick now. There's a Gavany Township, so a couple lands rolling off the top here for our Obzon Company player. 3 mana. That'll be an Eternal Witness, which will get back an Abrupt Decay. Abrupt Decay is going to go after the Grinding Station, which needs to be played right now, of course, on Cameron's turn because of the Teferi. So Grinding Station is taken care of. We're going to head back over to Collins. Metalcraft's still online for the Mox Opal, and of course Mox Amber's still online thanks to the Teferi Time Raveler.
But it looks like Mullen here kind of all dressed up and nowhere to go.
Yeah.
You know, he's got plenty of resources to work with, but I don't think he's got any sort of payoff card in his hand.
Looks like he's going to use the Teferi to bounce the Mox Amber. White mana floating at this stage. What he's missing, pardon me, is a Kethis. So he'll play a Mana Confluence and a Mox Amber. He's got Grinding Station in hand, but all he can do is pass the turn back with a food token on the battlefield. Here comes the Witness for 3, given the Exalted trigger. The follow-up is Collector Oof. That's a problem. And now there's Eidolon of Rhetoric. Also
yeah, these are, I mean, this mixture of creatures here that Patrick's bringing to the table here is, these are all big problems. And they're all spread out on cost, too, which is nice. It means that it's hard for Mullen to get out of this with engineered explosives.
Got a game on our hands now, folks, that's for sure. Cameron Patrick is going to serve in here for 5 points of damage. Mullen looks like he's going to have to take this hit. Now there's an Assassin's Trophy on the Eidolon. So that takes care of the first problem. As Patrick will search up a forest with the Assassin's Trophy. And how about another Assassin's Trophy to take care of the Collector Roof? So now we're solving all the problems. Okay. Search up another basic if you got one, Cameron Patrick. He does. He's got a Plains. All right. Giver of Runes. A little late to the party, but it's here nonetheless. We head back over to Collins. Can he find a copy of Kethis? He'll play Emery. Let's mill a couple of cards. And now Cameron Patrick is going to search for a forest. Which means that Giver of Runes is online now. Gavany Township activation is going to make all these creatures a little bit bigger. Start to cut some time out of this game. There's a Nurturing Peatland. Cameron will very quickly sacrifice that Horizon land and come in here with all his Knuckleheads. Well, at least most of them. There's the Gavany Township activation at the ready.
I think Patrick's sitting here on a cord.
That's what it looks like. To be able to interact at instant speed.
Go get another oof.
Perhaps. So Mullen takes a look at his graveyard. He's going to activate Emery. Emery's going to get back Chromatic Star. Going to cast a Chromatic Star. So we're going to activate the Chromatic Star and draw a card. Minamo! Minamo! There is Minamo. Oh, and on top.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Untap a legendary creature. Talk to me about it. All right. Activate. Get back the star. Okay. Here comes the Court of Calling in response. Is it time for another oof? It's a scavenging ooze.
Sure.
Okay. The ooze will eat the star.
And this sure seems like a dead end to me because Mullen not been doing a whole lot.
And the ooze strikes me as fairly problematic. Now don't forget, as here comes the attack, he does have a food token he can sacrifice to gain some life, so he'll do that. And now here's a township activation, and that's going to do it. Cameron Patrick's going to win this game and match here over with Obzon Company over Kethis Com.